I'm an attorney. Obviously, I've been practiced for almost 37 years. I'm a member of the California Bar, the Texas Bar, the Maryland Bar, and the United States Supreme Court Bar. So I've been around for a long time. About 12 years ago, I began to specialize in EB-5, and I've limited my practice to EB-5 now, and that is the only area of practice that we do in my office. My associate and his supporting attorney all practice EB-5. I wrote my book in 2006, and we've been renewing or reviewing that and updating that every year since. We've filed approximately 1,500 EB-5 applications successfully, and it is what we do, and we do it very well.
Now, you said you're located in San Francisco right now. Do you want to talk a little bit about your team and kind of where they are, how you work together kind of with the global footprint that I know you work with investors from a lot of different places?
Sure. We work with investors all over the world, most of the investors remotely. I have traveled to India 4 or 5 times. I've spent a lot of time in China, but primarily our clients are based on communication through email, video, and phone. And we have a team of, Hassan Jatoy, who is our senior counsel. He is supported by Yali Shi, another attorney, and then they are supported by paralegal staff that all have advanced degrees in business or finance. So they're all very, very familiar with EB-5.
So you started in immigration, I imagine, and then eventually pared down your practice to EB-5. What drove that decision, or what attracts you to immigration more generally? And then what was the path down to focusing exclusively on EB-5?
Well, basically, we did all types of immigration for many years. I always focused on business immigration, and then I went beyond that. I'm licensed by the Securities and Exchange Commission as a general securities principal. So I have that financial background. I wanted to pursue that, and basically wanted to focus on one area to be very, very competent in that one area and make sure I provide the best service to my clients. Now from the standpoint of immigration, one of the reasons that it was important to me is my father immigrated to this country illegally from Canada back in the 30s. So I happen to be Canadian as well as a US citizen. My mother-in-law came here after World War II. So we're kind of surrounded by immigrants, and my entire staff all immigrated to this country or first-generation immigrants.
Wow. So you've helped about 1,500 people permanently build their future in America.
Yes, and we've been very successful, and it's super. It's great to give the opportunities that the U.S. has to offer to people, and to do it in an honest, straightforward, ethical way. And we believe strongly in the value of EB-5, what it offers the United States, the jobs and the economic opportunity, and then it offers the immigrant the chance to pursue their life and their future generations' life in the United States.
Sure. Now, you often see with EB-5 attorneys, you see them that they both work on the project side and the investor side, the individual petitioner side as well. It sounds like you only work on the investor side. And one of the things that I've seen after being in the space for a while is that at times, delicate balancing act that people who both represent projects and represent investors have. Can you talk a little bit about maybe that dynamic? And did you ever work on the project side, or have you always focused on the investor side? And what are the advantages of just focusing on one side of the equation versus both?
Well, the attorneys that actually put together regional centers that do that type of legal work, many of them also do the representing investors. I do believe there's a conflict. If on the one hand you created the legal entity and you created all the legal documents that are associated with a legal entity, and then in turn represent someone who is investing in that legal entity, I find that to be a conflict. we only represent individual investors. We do not form or represent regional centers.
Yeah, it does. Agreeing with you, I have seen it create a bit of a awkward situation where somebody's on both sides of the math equation, rather than being firmly on the side of the project or firmly on the side of the individual investor.
Well, absolutely. If you actually form a project, your job is to do everything you can in that formation to be honest, but in favor of your client who is the project.
Sure.
And therefore, if you're representing an individual investor, you're representing an individual investor, and your obligations to that investor are to put them in the best possible position. And
Yep.
clearly, there's a conflict between a project and an investor in that situation.
Now, there's a lot of people that we've seen, and we've worked together before over the years. There's a lot of people who kind of do a lot of shopping around when they select their regional center or project, their attorney. And you've been obviously extremely successful in terms of just the sheer number of successful applicants you've had. What do you think has been in what I would call a crowded field? How have you distinguished yourself in terms of creating value for the people that work with you? Is it what do these people say when they say, I talked to 3 people and Vaughan, you were the most accessible, or you were the most experienced, or what you're the most expert? What do you find people, what appeals them to your team?
Well, we know now it's clearly not my looks, but basically my philosophy is that I want to empower the client. I want to empower them with the information they need to make the best decisions for themselves and their families. That's why I wrote a comprehensive book on EB-5, the Investor's Guide, and that's why I wrote a book on doing due diligence, so they understand the questions they need to ask. And it's very straightforward. It's a great program, but they need to be fully informed. And I believe it's the attorney's job to provide them with the information they need so they are fully performed. And they're looking at the right project, and they're asking the right questions so they can protect themselves and their family and their future.
I think the point that you just mentioned is an important one, which is essentially your job isn't to replace their judgment. Your job is to build their judgment in asking the right questions and empowering them to if they're looking at the EB-5 program, they're obviously a successful person, right? They've made good choices in the past. And so a key part of the relationship is letting them, obviously they're not anywhere near the expert that you are, but they're certainly smart, bright people. And when they hear questions, they can compare, they can listen, they can in some ways make up their own mind, right?
Well, absolutely. They've obviously, if they're in this position, they've made some wise financial decisions, and understanding where they're going to be investing is very intuitive to them. They want to understand what they're doing, and they want to make sure that their investment is safe. So it makes a lot of sense. But on the other hand, a lot of the investors are young professionals who don't have that experience, and they may be receiving a gift from a parent or other family member, and they need to feel that they have the knowledge to protect the investment they're making as well.